You're listening to Revealing Talk Radio.
We're going to start off tonight with some interesting news highlights. I want to jam through a few different topics here tonight, not really focus on one specifically, but kind of recap what's happened through the week, what we know, some very interesting developments even in the last 24 hours on the Colorado James Holmes movie theater Batman incident. So we'll touch on that. We've got DHS, Department of Homeland Security, sending out some interesting memos, so we'll touch on that. The second segment tonight will be the truth about your birth certificate. This is a really, really interesting and thought-provoking subject that we'll dive into and kind of evaluate from a few different angles and really understand how this specific control mechanism was, initially implemented, kind of where this concept came from, how much it really has an effect on your life and some of the liberties that you're agreeing to give up. Kind of important to understand that. The third segment will jump right into government propaganda and control systems, so connecting a few dots in between the control mechanisms and then right into propaganda techniques and how they use these control mechanisms to kind of direct and manipulate our lives certain ways, with certain products and certain limitations. Overall, if I had to simplify it and just cut to the chase, it's about limitation. Ladies and gentlemen, that's really what it is. We are infinite beings. We have infinite potential. Our minds are infinitely powerful, and we can basically create whatever we want. And this is a threat to the cancerous control system, the pyramid control system, the matrix that we're here to decrypt. So that's exactly what we're going to do for the fourth segment. We're going to come back. We're going to talk for about 10 minutes on unplugging from the matrix and how to think like someone that has figured out how to kind of dodge the traps and exploitation of the conspiracy matrix that we find ourselves in from day to day. So super interesting. Let's jump right into some news highlights. So of course we've got the London Olympics. Huge display of power, as we talked about last night. We spent the whole first segment talking about how they've got just an amazing military force showing a power here. Troops out the wazoo, police, private military, surface-to-air missiles, gunships, carrier ships, drones, armed drones. So they lied to us. They said that they weren't going to have armed drones. It looks like they do. So it doesn't look good. It started today. I haven't had a chance to tune in yet to the to the event, but again, that's what we're here to do, is kind of figure out what they're trying to tell us with the Olympics and get down to decrypting the matrix. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen, you're on with Max Maverick. This is Decrypted Matrix. It's Revealing Talk Radio, and so exciting shows lined up on Revealing Talk Radio. Definitely check it out, revealingtalkradio.com. Expand your mind, and that's what we're going to do right here tonight on Decrypted Matrix. So back into the news, we've got we've got some really interesting news. I don't know how to approach this with James Holmes. I didn't really want to dive into that one just yet, but it's really interesting. We're finding out now, folks, the photos don't match. The photo they initially showed us of James Holmes, the one where he's smiling, pre-crime photo, and the photo of him kind of sedated in the police mugshot, not the same person, folks. It is definitely not the same person. I don't have this up on the site yet, but you can definitely check it out on Before It's News right now. It's a trending article. James Holmes' photos do not match, so check that out. You can see it in the nose. The nose is really what gives it away. They've magnified that and pulled it up so you can compare the two. In the pictures, it's not the same, folks. And I even, I didn't call this exactly, but I did say in one of the earlier shows, I think it was Tuesday's show, that the multiple personalities do have the ability to manipulate physical characteristics as well. And so that third personality that I think he could be stuck in, the Joker personality that would have had to have been possible for him to carry out such a gruesome attack with no emotion. If he's stuck in this personality, that could potentially be manipulating his facial characteristics. But the nose knows, people. Just look at the nose. It's not the same. The one in the newest photo is very thin and narrow with small oblong holes, and the small oblong nostrils. And the previous photo, when he was a nice guy and everyone knew him, he looked much different, slightly narrower face. The Adam's apple, I noticed, also is different. I don't think anybody commented on this, but you can see the Adam's apple is definitely different. So what does that mean? We're going to definitely keep our eye on that. I mean, there's more interesting news came out about the father. The father worked, he's associated with DARPA and also LIBOR. So we know there was an interesting change of power recently with DARPA. A new woman is running DARPA, and so they recently replaced the CEO. So that's interesting. And LIBOR just had this huge scandal, and so fraud was discovered, manipulation, huge shocker. Let me tell you, a shocker in the financial sector. We've got a little more fraud and mistruths and misdirected funding and bailouts. The list goes on and on. But, on a lighter note, we actually have some interesting news with Shadow the dog. Shadow the dog was just released. He's from the UK. I think he was being held up in Ireland, very similar to Lennox. Lennox was the dog that kind of made national news within the last week or so, couple weeks. Unfortunately, Lennox was put down. But this is an interesting story that relates to the police state, folks. The police state is extending the reach so far now. They think they can just take your animal, take your pet, take man's best friend, and lock him up for any reason they deem necessary. In this case, it turns out that Lennox's parents were being vocal and were somewhat of activists to the government of Northern Ireland. They were, about to expose some dirt, and so they used an excuse, a vague law that they have that says that the dogs that look like pit bull or pit bull variety are actually illegal and can be confiscated and put down. And so he's not a pit bull, and it could be argued that he does not or does have those features, but he was never aggressive or mean to anybody. The state just came in and used a unique opportunity to flex their power and take the dog, held him for 15 months, kept it out of the news, unfortunately, and right before they were about to put him down, the news got out, social media did some real magic, and they just got bombarded with petitions and letters and death threats, unfortunately. So don't support that, but we do support the attention and the benefit that social media brought to that situation. So now what we have are groups that have gone and band together, and they're seeking out this type of injustice. And so while it's sad that Lennox was put down, it's nice to hear that these same groups that fought to try to save Lennox are now continuing that effort, and they're going to continue to find other injustices like this Shadow the dog, who was being held up for 15 months, and they released him. They got enough attention. The shelter was getting bombarded, and enough people were just bugging the heck out of him. They said, "Okay, we give up. We'll release him." The government of Northern Ireland was not so nice. Some people suspect they may have already put down the dog, and they didn't want to admit it. So by the time that enough tension got on it, they would have folded. But if they had already killed the dog, they would have had to hold firm and say they followed through with it. So who knows what really happened there? But another interesting news, we've got DHS, the riot gear, kind of mentioned earlier. They're ordering, we hear this all the time, like once a month it seems like we're hearing about riot gear ordered, or ballistics, military, SWAT gear. They are beefing up the police state, folks. They are funding the police force so well, it's unbelievable. They're giving them drones, they're giving them body armor, they're giving them tanks. Boise, Idaho is getting tanks. What tell me, why is that necessary? What are they expecting? And so the only thing they could possibly be expecting is some type of civil war or uprising where the people would be the people versus the police. And kind of if you really pay attention and some of the things in the news, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what that might mean. And so there's a few ways that unrest could come. And if it came with the collapse of the dollar, there'd be food shortages and rioting. If it came with guns being illegal overnight, there'd be a lot of diehard gun lovers that would say, come pry it from my cold dead fingers. So interesting situation we find ourselves in. So you never know what they're really doing. Could just be a scare tactic. But again, we want to pay attention. We keep seeing these things pop up. We're here to decrypt the matrix. That's what it's about. Keep an open mind. unplug yourself, become another crack in that pyramid control system, and empower yourself. And so, last thing, kind of maybe wrap up this segment with a couple more interesting things. We got this poor guy arrested for collecting rainwater on his own property. Ridiculous that the government can now, flex its muscle. It's a huge abuse of power and tell somebody that they can't collect rainwater on their own property. Distilled rainwater is where, how humans initially got their hydration. So the fact that we can't even, maybe for health reasons, do that in many cases because the water's polluted and would have to be treated after you collected it. Still, dictating the ability to collect rainwater. No thanks, government. Stay out of my life. Get out of my yard. Really. So we've got that. One other one. Oh, let's see. Mexico. Michoaca, Mexico. Super, super crazy video. Filmed in Mexico, uploaded to YouTube. You can find this right now. I think this is also trending out there. Haven't had time to post this on the site yet, but a very unusual object filmed over Mexico. The quality is really not too bad. You can definitely see that it's some type of metallic orb or disc that's hovering in the air and kind of moves around strangely. It, who knows what that could be? Could be, government has two labels for them. We've heard from the insiders, government contractors that have been involved in this advanced technology, advanced propulsion systems, those advanced technologies that the government wants to withhold for themselves and not release that for the betterment of humanity and the good of technical evolution and this trend away from fossil fuels. There's obviously a lot of money there, so I think that's probably the main reason that we're not see these hover cars and this advanced propulsion and free energy type of things, because it's too many fat cats would be knocked off their high horse, and so they're grasping desperately now to maintain that. So that's kind of it for the news. Again, we wanted to touch on that James Holmes thing. Super interesting. We're going to find out more and more about his history. They said something about him being paid, $20,000 to $24,000 for his studies for the year, and that may have funded his operation. I'm going to call BS on that right now, because his equipment alone was, at least, we know from his SWAT equipment and the guns and the ammunition that it was, at least $20,000 right there. And so that's not even figuring in the chemicals and explosives and all that. So, wow. I mean, now, and then we've got information coming up that it looks like, looking at these pictures a little closer, that it's probably not even the same person. So they're desperate, folks. If they're pulling off something like this, conveniently timed, right before the Olympics, Aurora, Colorado, Aurora being the Greek goddess of the dawn, and so we see the symbolism of the dawning of a new day again. Huge Illuminati symbolism. We see that everywhere. It's kind of a gang sign, a symbol of them saying, "Hey, we've got more coming. This is the start of something new, the dawn of a new day." So kick your heels up. We are going to move into the truth about your birth certificate. You're not exploited anymore. After tonight, it ends. So stay there. Don't touch the dial. So we're back, ladies and gentlemen. The truth about your birth certificate. What does it all mean? How did this start? What is the whole Social Security? How does that fit into it? Your passport. Man, it's exciting. The truth about your birth certificate. So you're going to learn some things tonight you probably never heard before. We're even going to loop in the Wizard of Oz. You're like, Max, I know I'm listening to Decrypted Matrix on Revealing Talk Radio, but now you're throwing things at me like the truth about my birth certificate, and it's somehow connected to the Wizard of Oz. What are you getting at? Well, sit back, relax, take a deep breath, get some water. We're going to fly through this. I want to apologize ahead of time, let you know that the archive of this will be available hopefully within a hour or two, a couple hours within the conclusion of this broadcast. It'll be available on the same post that was made earlier for tonight. And so jump on there, hit the download, listen to this a couple times. We're going to fly through. You're going to need to make sure you absorb this. So the straw man comes from the concept of creating a fake you. The United States Code, we'll go through that real quick, just what the United States Code is, because it sets a great foundation. The United States means a federal corporation. In reality, Obama is the president of the corporation, and the citizens are employees of that corporation. America is actually a British colony, because the United States is a corporation, not a landmass, and it existed before the Revolutionary War. The troops did not leave until 1796. So Republica versus Swears, 1 Dallas 43, Treaty of Commerce, 8 Statute 116, is where you can learn more about that one. The King of England financially backed both sides of the Revolutionary War, and that is referenced at the Treaty of Versailles, July 16, 1782, and the Treaty of Peace, 8 Statute 80. The United States is a corporation. It didn't declare independence from Great Britain or King George. In 1604, a corporation called the Virginia Company was formed in anticipation of the imminent influx of white Europeans, mostly British at first, into North America, and the main stockholder was King James I. Original charter for the company was completed by April 10th, 1606. So the Virginia Company owned most of the land, that what we now call the USA. The Virginia Company, British Crown and bloodline families, essentially, had rights to 50% of all gold and silver mined on its lands, plus percentages of other minerals and raw minerals, and 5% of all profits from other ventures. So it was a business move, ladies and gentlemen. Expanding the British Empire to America was a business venture, nothing more. So we really got to remember, lands of the Virginia Company were granted to the colonies under a deed of trust, quote unquote, on lease, and therefore they could not claim ownership of the land. They could pass on the perpetual use of the land to their heirs, but they could never own it. Ownership was retained by the British Crown. And so they consider us, you've seen this term, ironically, called monsters. A monster, they say, is a human being by birth, but in some part resembling a lower animal. A monster hath no inheritable blood and cannot be heir to any land. And so technically, we do not own any property. Ladies and gentlemen, slaves cannot own property. Read the deed of property that you think is yours. You are listed as a tenant. You can reference this in Senate Document 43, 73rd Congress, First Session. After the first 21 years from the formation of the Virginia Company, all duties, imposts, and excises paid on the trading activities in the colonies had to be paid directly to the British Crown through the Crown Treasurer. And so Queen Elizabeth controls and has amended the U.S. Social Security. The 1040 form is interesting. 1040 is a tribute paid to Britain, essentially. You can see this in IRS Publication 6209. And, you know, I'll kind of sum it up as Americans are slaves to the Queen and really own absolutely nothing. Social Security is not insurance or a contract, nor is it a trust fund. The criminal courts on the lands of the Virginia Company were operated under admiralty law, the law of the sea, and the civil courts were operated under common law, the law of the land. And so this is totally relevant because America, or United States of America, is not a country. It's a corporation owned by the same brotherhood bloodlines who own the Virginia Company, because the USA is the Virginia Company. It existed before the Revolutionary War. So you cannot really use the Constitution to defend yourself because you're not a party to it. And this was argued in Paddleford Fay and Co. Versus the mayor of Alderman in the city of Savannah, Georgia, 438, 520. And so they actually say that the people does not even include U.S. citizens. That was in Brown versus Mayer in the city of Baltimore. So what does that mean? How does it get to the straw man? The straw man is what they have used and created as for the natural human to represent itself as a corporation. And so we have the Uniform Commercial Code, which is how international commerce happens, and it's basically for shipping internationally. So when countries deal with each other, they have very specific protocols and ways of docking at port and exchanging manifests. And so if you look at the way that we generate our birth certificates and the way that whole system categorizes and monitors the creation or births of humans, it's the same exact thing, folks. So here's why. We've got here's some symbolism too. We'll touch on. Jordan Maxwell is a great one for symbolism. He knows a lot about this financial symbolism and the occult and the way that these elite societies and bloodlines have manipulated things in their favor. But one of them that he mentioned is banks. The name bank is even relevant because they chose the name bank because it's like a river bank. It directs the flow of cash. And so capital is like cash to them. And so they really feel that that they, even the definitions that we use are very specific. And so you look at things like, the registration of a car or a boat or even a child, is you're technically handing over your ownership to the government by agreeing to represent your straw man. And so the straw man is in place anytime you see your name in all capital letters. This is on your birth certificate. It's on your driver's license. It's not the real you, people. It's the fictitious person created by the manifest of your birth certificate, and that's what a birth certificate represents: is the manifestation of a new product, a new stock to be traded, which is the same as a manifest that docks at port and hands over the manifest and exchanges goods, and then they move about their commerce. And so you see also the Mr., Mrs., and Ms. used frequently whenever the straw man is in place. And so when you go to court and you show up to pay your parking ticket, you are agreeing to represent your straw man. And so that is what you're doing whenever you exercise your legal right, is you're actually agreeing to be your straw man. And it's a scary thing. You can apparently reject this and drop your Social Security number. There is a process to it. There's a few interesting articles I have up on the site, decryptedmatrix.com. There's the rights regarding your Social Security numbers. You do have certain rights that they don't tell you about. One of them is the right to drop it. They make it very difficult and cumbersome, but apparently it can be done. There are some examples of people successfully doing this and saying, hey, I am not my straw man, legally saying, hey, I'm not my straw man, this is BS, and I will never agree to represent my straw man under circumstances like this ever again. They make you jump through hoops and file a bunch of paperwork to basically state this, but it is possible. There's a conversation that's quite interesting. If I had time, I'd read through it, but I think I want to talk a little bit about the symbolism in the Wizard of Oz more, because it's a little more valuable and kind of relevant to everybody, I think. So check out the Terminate Your Social Security Number article. It's up on the site. There's a conversation where an activist individual calls up the Social Security Administration and starts asking questions specifically about how to go through this process. And it's a very interesting dialogue, the responses that they get and how this was handled. And then then what had happened, I'll kind of read the end of this because I think I could jam through it pretty quick and still touch on the other piece that is relevant here, which is the Wizard of Oz. So this is somebody that tried to open a bank account after they dropped their Social Security number. Hello, I recently tried to open a bank account with my local bank, and when they asked for a Social Security number, I informed them that I didn't have one. They flatly refused and said without a SSN, they can absolutely not open an account of any kind. I proceeded to thus convince them that they were in the wrong because, one, I informed them that I had terminated my Social Security number legally in accordance with 20 CFR 3A7 404-1905, and two, I informed them that the bank could not be held legally responsible by anyone for failing to obtain a Social Security number from me pursuant to 31 CFR 103.34A1 and 3. I informed them that under the Internal Revenue Code, Section 6014, they were not even required to provide any taxpayer identification numbers on the Form 1099 that they file with the IRS at the end of the year. And 4, I informed them that pursuant to 26 CFR 301.6109-1C, they were not under any legal obligation to obtain a Social Security number from me, and informed them that 42 U.S.C. 408 makes it a felony to use a threat, duress, or coercion to try to force a person by fear or deceit to provide his Social Security number in an unlawful manner. That's important, folks. It's really important. After a brief meeting with the bank's controller and legal counsel, I received a phone call stating that I would be allowed to open a checking account. Please pass this information along to your readers in hopes that it may help someone else who may find themselves in this situation. So we have an example out there, folks. Apparently it can be done. Pretty fascinating. You might find yourself in some unique situations if you try it. But who knows? Maybe there's some bold souls out there. So symbolism in the Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz is tricky. We've got a great article on the site. Check it out. Symbolism in the Wizard of Oz. We'll just run through some of the quick symbolism because we got like a minute or two left. The Wizard of Oz was written by Frank Baum, and it is not a child's story. Oz is a symbol for ounces. What is measured in ounces? Gold. What is the yellow brick rolled? It is bricks of bars of gold. That's what it's meant to represent. The straw man, a character known as the straw man, represents that fictitious, all caps, legal fiction, a person the federal U.S. government created with the same spelling as your birth name. So that's it, right? The straw man right there. We got the Tin Man, taxpayer identification number, the Tin Man. Got the cowardly lion who buckled and whimpered under anybody of stature who challenged him. So he's cowardly authoritarians who are awarded a medal so they can have official recognition and continue their authoritarianism. So we'll come back to that. Hold on that. We come back after the break.
You're listening to Revealing Talk Radio.
All right, man, I was excited about that last one. I really get into this stuff because some of these symbols and the control mechanisms are hidden right in front of our faces. It's so important that we point this out to our friends and our family and our peers. Hey, man, this is Max Maverick. You're on Decrypted Matrix. It's Revealing Talk Radio, the one and the only. You're only going to hear, typically, you'll only hear stuff like this on Decrypted Matrix or, our respected peers. There's not too many that go down this rabbit hole, but, tonight we're talking about the control mechanism that is your birth certificate, the straw man concept. They create this legal fiction, a fictional entity so that you agree to become a part of it and pay the fines and duties and taxes and go through the motions as if you're this fictitious corporation. Corporations can only deal with corporations, not natural persons. And so this is the fraud that they created to fool you, to get you to agree to become a willing participant. And so we were talking a little bit about the Wizard of Oz and how Oz is a symbol for, is really a symbol for, ounces and gold, bricks of gold that pave the yellow brick road. We've got the straw man, who's the fictitious person. What did he want? A brain. He was, but all he wanted was a brain, but no juristic person, no legal fiction, a paper corporation. None of them have a brain. He has no breath of life. So what does he get in place of a brain? A certificate, folks, a birth certificate for a new legal creation. It's kind of obvious. He was so proud of his new legal status that all the legalisms he was granted. He's now the epitome of the brainless sack of straw who was given a certificate in place of a grain of common sense. And so, what do we got with the Tin Man? Taxpayer identification number, tin. The poor Tin Man, he just stood there mindlessly doing his work until his body literally froze up and stopped functioning. He was holding the axe up. Oh, I have no idea how long that axe was up there. He worked himself to death. He had no heart, no soul. The heartless, emotionless creature robotically carrying out his daily task as though he were already dead. Does that sound like anybody out there in America or other countries that are just being forced into their bubble of work and despair and just going through the motions, just existing, unfortunately, fighting, struggling to exist in many cases. So that's the system forcing us into these positions. And so they show us that in even movies like The Wizard of Oz. So the heartless, emotionless creature. He's the ox pulling the plow and the mule toiling under the yoke. So, these days, his taskmasters oil him nightly, this Tin Man, with beer and place him in front of a hypnotic television until his very existence no longer has any meaning or value. So are we talking about the Tin Man, or are we talking about the average plugged-in male unaware of his surroundings? So really think about that. think about the distractions that we have, and the mindless hypnotic robots they're trying to create. So masters keep him out in the cold, heartless, no emotion. The cowardly lion, I commented earlier, he was too frightened to stand up for himself, but he was really a bully with a big mouth, when it came to picking on those smaller than he. So you really notice how bullies are the biggest cowards. They act as though they have courage, but in reality, they really have none at all. They'll roar, but with no teeth of authority to back them up. So when it came to push and shove, cowardly lion buckled and whimpered when anyone of size or stature challenged him. So he wanted courage granted from the wizard. He was awarded the medal, a medal of official recognition. So now, still remaining a coward, his official status allowed him to be a bully, with bully officially being recognized and having authority. And so not unlike the attorneys who hide behind the middle courts of the temple bar. And so we see that typically. We've got the poppies. You notice how they had no narcotic effect on the straw man, the man with no brain, or the tin man, no heart or soul. They weren't real people, so drugs couldn't influence them. Wizard of Oz, written at the turn of the century, how could the author have known that America was going to be drugged? Maybe he had an inside scoop. Maybe he was kind of on the elite insider crew, kind of knew what was coming down the pipe. But the Crown has been playing the drug cartel game for centuries. So they're no fools to the drug game and what advantages they can play there. What was the Emerald City? Well, the Federal Reserve System, of course. Who finally exposed the wizard for what he was? Toto. Toto, or the cute, or depending on your perspective, or ugly, somewhat annoying little dog. Toto means in total, altogether. Latin, in toto. And so, what was it that the witch wanted after she alleged that the dog had bitten her? Toto. She wanted Toto, everything, in total. So we got the witch going after Toto. The witch wants everything. That's the octopus. That's the shattered glass. That's the conspiracy. That's the cancer trying to maintain itself. We've got the Toto was not scared of the great wizard's theatrics. He was so small in size compared to the wizard, no one seemed to notice him. The smoke and flames of the holographic images of Oz were designed to frighten people into doing as the great Oz commanded. Toto simply padded over, looking behind the curtain, the court, and saw it was a scam, and started barking until others paid attention to him and came to see what all the barking was about. Who was behind the curtain? Just an ordinary person, folks. Just an ordinary pervert person controlling the lever, pulling the levers that created the illusion of the great wizard's power and authority. So when Toto pulled back the curtain, completely exposed him, the charade was at an end, the veil hiding the corporate legal fiction and its false courts removed. The wizard's game was up. He was, what was he after all? A con man. A fraud, just like in the beginning, before the dream. She meets him, and he's a con man. He's a fraud. He's the snake oil guy. And so we see in this tale just how loud a bark from a little dog can be. Is Max Maverick a bark? Is he the dog barking? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we're making a difference. Maybe we're not. It's all about your bark, ladies and gentlemen. How big is it? Most of us remain silent. We wait to be given whatever food or recognition, if any, by our legal master. And what does Dorothy have? How did she get home? She simply clicked her heels, folks. She had the power all along. So do we. We have the power to unplug ourselves. We have the power to avoid these control mechanisms. They're showing it to us in the movie. They're showing it to us in reality. It's everywhere. All you have to do is pay attention. We each only need a brain, a heart, a soul, and courage. Perhaps the greatest importance, we need to learn how to work together. That's what the group did. They had to learn how to come together and figure out how to get down the yellow brick road. And in toto, working together, one body, the King of Kings, whatever name or form that may take for each of us, we can have the freedom, given under God's law or whatever your religious preference is, the ultimate frequency. That's the message, folks. That's it. So we've got them telling us symbolism about our birth certificate, the control system, gold, taxpayer identification number, the straw man concept. It's all there. hidden in the Wizard of Oz. I'm sure the readers and the fans will find some additional connections, connect some dots. Those are just some highlights from the article that you'll find up there. A couple different articles about this, and you can go from there. So pointing you in the right direction, as always. We'll never admit or claim to have the full answer or complete truth, but I think I figured it out pretty close on that one, and continue to investigate there. You'll just uncover more amazing coincidences. So what does that all mean with the taxes and Social Security number? It's just one of the control mechanisms, ultimately. Really, it's just one of the many. But the Social Security number and the tax system is kind of the foundation of it. It's what makes the passport possible. And so the passport connects and maintains, restricts, whatever you want to call it, the travel situation. The travel passport nowadays, before it was just a piece of paper. It could be faked. It could be copied. It could be destroyed. Many things. Nowadays, the passport is almost it's really your biology. Unfortunately, here's why: the passport has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 identifiers in it that we know of for sure, regarding confirming that your passport really belongs to you and that you are an identified piece of property based on your birth certificate, which is your Social Security number, which is ultimately your passport and your ability to travel. What are they? First one, Social Security number. Not issued by the Social Security Administration. That's actually a subset of the International Monetary Fund. And so are you shocked that your Social Security number is actually divvied out by the International Monetary Fund? You shouldn't be, because you can read about it and other control mechanisms like this on decryptedmatrix.com and be prepared for that. So it's not rocket science, folks. Social Security number, that's the first one. Your iris and your retinas, to be more specific. So your iris and your retina, your eye together, either one they can read because it's unique to the person and has a signature that can be translated to a mathematical number or an algorithm that's unique to you. And then boom, you're connected, you're on the grid. At any time your iris could be scanned. It's run in real time, just like your thumbprint, which is number 3. They could scan it in real time and know anything about you that has ever been categorized in a centralized law enforcement or government agency database. RFID is the other one. That's actually in the passport itself. So that's the radio frequency identification tag. That's another show topic that we could probably spend the entire hour on. We may do that, we may not. Depends what kind of feedback we get from the fans. But RFID is coming right around the corner, and it's coming in a big way. So some good things, mostly bad things, mostly control mechanism related. Voice is the other one. Just as my voice is being run through a database right now, no doubt, by NSA and its echelon servers, every other frequency on Earth is also doing the same. And apparently every voice has a digital signature, a mathematical frequency or representation that is completely unique to the individual and can absolutely be replicated as well. Can be identified and completely replicated. DNA is the last one that we know about. That's your deoxyribonucleic acid. That is the chain and structure, the entwined, twisted pair that you see under the microscope only, and in big fancy drawings. So then you got stuff, these control mechanisms. That's what we're talking about. So I got to really rush through the last ones, and then we'll come back and finish it up. But chemicals is next. That's like aspartame, fluoride, corn syrup. So more control mechanisms. They're slapping you in the face every day. We're going to learn how to avoid them. So don't go anywhere.
You're listening to Revealing Talk Radio.
Yeah, so our final section tonight, our final segment is going to wrap up, but I wanted to finish on the government propaganda and control systems because the Wizard of Oz and the birth certificate one kind of ran long. All of these could run long. I have a bad habit of doing that because there's really just so much to talk about. So much is relevant. Decrypting the matrix is not easy, folks. You got to pick and choose what are priorities and what highlights are the most relevant, and then just wait and get around to kind of filling in some of the gaps as you go along. So with the control mechanism that is the chemicals in our food, because we wrapped up on the passport, the different ways that the passport connects us to our biology, which is the iris, the thumb, the voice, the DNA, potentially RFID if you get that injected, like some kids, babies, pets are being chipped. You hear that term, chipped. Could be the mark of the beast. Quite a few arguments about that. That's definitely talked about and prophesized in the Bible. There, you read all day about that one. I won't go down that now, but RFID and DNA, two just huge ones that are really, really important, huge risks and invasions to privacy. So aspartame, Donald Rumsfeld, his company that he was originally, I think, CEO of, designed, developed this, and then he made a ton of money, and it's really harmful. Doesn't do us any good. They sell it as a sweetener. Artificial sweetener, but it has some long-term effects that I'm not completely, totally familiar with, but I think it has to do with some of the ways it affects our internal organs, and some people have died from aspartame, and so you really want to watch out for that one. Avoid it when you can. Fluoride's another one. Look, not rocket science. They don't do anything out of their way that helps people for any reason. It's pretty obvious nowadays that type of approach is gone. So the fact that they're doing fluoride in the water and in our toothpaste for our own health and for our good, the possibility that that's the truth is just so far outside the scope of reality, especially when you see all the real testing and real independent research and the mountain of evidence and the laundry list of articles you can find on Decrypted Matrix about the fraud behind fluoride, what the test results really say, what it really does to your pineal gland, how it calcifies it, cuts you off from your spirituality, cuts us off from our sixth sense ability. They put it in everything. It's in our soda, it's in our beverages, it's in our toothpaste, anything that we can get a slow, continual, just low dosing of can slightly lower inhibitions, lower IQ. A report just came out. I just saw it this past weekend. It's not up on the site yet, but it will be soon, about how IQ is confirmed now, even by the U.S. administration, to lower IQ. Not good, folks. Now we got them wanting to modify and genetically modify organisms all over the place. Try to go out and find a natural or organic option without paying more nowadays. Very, very difficult. Everything's GMO. They're modifying it, patenting nature, saying they're making it better, but they don't care about making it better, folks. They're in cahoots with the medical industry, and they actually have an interest in making it worse, so that the food that we eat is worse and makes us more sick, more dependent on the healthcare system, more in debt to Obamacare and dependent on things like Obamacare, and more willing to accept control mechanisms like Obamacare. So profits are definitely related to sickness. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that they want to treat symptoms, not cure diseases. They're not interested in Mother Nature curing diseases and providing for all the life on this planet. We're the only ones that kind of go way out of our way to create new methods of travel and computer chips and all these ways to quote unquote improve our lives. But we can see in nature there's perfect balance and harmony, and there are ecosystems that can support themselves without these unnecessary distractions and synthetics that the human race has decided to pervade and persist and continue to create as if it's this huge advancement and betterment of our situation. Clearly, it is not. The other one that I think is relevant, although the list is very long, is corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is pretty damaging to the pancreas, so we really got to avoid that whenever we can. Not good. So aspartame, fluoride, corn syrup, GMOs, got to avoid them. They tout GMOs as if it's going to help third world nations, ending famine, blah, blah, blah. It's not happening, folks. They've been able to do this genetic modification for a long time. We're not seeing third world nations come out of their the food and famine and drought problems. They say they can fix all this, but we're not seeing it. I say they can fix it with the advanced technology they refuse to release. All of that could be reappropriated, broken down, developed into research and development for sustained agriculture, growth in harsh climates, that kind of thing, and really end this problem once and for all. So, could be done. They choose not to do it. They'd rather pay trillions in bailouts instead of just a couple million or a few billion to end world hunger. No, we'd rather have a few keystrokes and create massive debt and continue to empower these corrupt bankers. So these guys are creating us to be dependent on healthcare. They've now connected the healthcare system to the IRS and mandating taxes for those who don't participate in the healthcare system. So if you don't participate, you don't buy the healthcare, then you're getting taxed out the wazoo, and they'll make you go broke by a huge tax levy if you can't prove that you had insurance. So not only do they use the medical and tax system and the IRS as a huge limitation system, rather, they also create rules around what we can do to our bodies and the drugs or mind-altering chemicals that are allowed to be ingested. So specifically referring to mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, there's few varieties of those, and DMT, dimethyltryptamine. This is an interesting chemical, much fascination and research behind dimethyltryptamine. It is a chemical naturally produced by the brain. Your pineal gland secretes it when you sleep, and it is what makes you have that instant dream state where you can have very vivid and realistic dreams where you're in another reality or another dimension almost, and you really have no separation between dream world and real world. That's your pineal gland in action, folks. That's what they're calcifying the heck out of with the fluoride and with the other chemicals. Tamarind, by the way, is natural. I think it's a fruit. It's a berry, and tamarind paste can actually, or tamarind tea, with drink regularly, regular basis, will help decalcify the pineal gland and help you remove some of the limitations that you might have just embedded with in your mind. Couldn't hurt. Tamarind, natural, natural. It's found out there, I think, in the plains of Africa, and so could be wrong about that. I always ask the listeners if there's any inconsistencies or hey, I was a little off on something. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. There's a lot rattling around up there. I think I've got it organized well, but sometimes I won't get it right. If you do notice that, definitely reach out. Let me know. Say, hey, Max, I think you got this thing mixed up. There were what you meant to say or where the berry is really from is such and such. So corrections out there, certainly let me know if I ever do that. Just stating that for the record on our first week of broadcast. So it's been exciting. We've had a great week of some cool stuff. So we'll end on just those kind of limitations they keep on our mind: taxes, money, the way we spend, the methods that we have to spend our money, the chemicals and options that we have to put in our body. It's just, we're getting bombarded from everywhere. So what do we do about it? How do we unplug from the matrix? I want to end this last 5 minutes with, I want to end strong. I want to help you have an idea, just start to wrap your mind around what it would be like to behave and go through life as if someone, that you were someone that has figured out how to dodge the traps. They're unplugged from the matrix. They don't buy it. They're not a party to the system. They don't play the game anymore, and they've decided that they're going to empower themselves, and they have no limitation, and the limitation is just an illusion. It's the first one. So important, ladies and gentlemen. Decrypting yourself, unplugging yourself from the matrix, decrypting the matrix in your mind. It's really all it is. It's a mind game they've played on you. It's really, it's like a sick joke. We're here in this bizarre existence with crazy chaos going around us. It's really a sick joke, unfortunately, that we can manipulate to our own advantage. We just don't know it. So you got to keep an open mind. It's good because it keeps the ideas fresh, keeps the new thoughts flowing. It allows you to just keep the imagination wide and running free, never imposing limitation, because a closed mind, ladies and gentlemen, is just limitation. It's like Einstein said, man should be seeking for the truth, not seeking for what he believes to be true. And so that's important. Ask yourself, are you really searching for the truth? Or are you just searching for what you believe to be true? Because there's a totally different motivator and end result for those two. So for number two, number one, open-minded, keeps the ideas fresh. Just try to limit your closed-mindedness if there's still some that exists. Two, respectful of all things. Your people and in your environment especially. This is important because the world really is, from what I've seen and from the information I've been able to piece together, taking quantum physics and the idea of thoughts and reality, these concepts about science. You got to be respectful of nature and your environment, because if it's a reflection and we're all connected, then don't judge your environment. Don't get angry at your environment for things being the way they are, or people being ridiculous, or it being rainy and cold today because, man, I was really hoping it'd be sunny. You just got to go through life as, everything is the way it's supposed to be at all given times. You're experiencing that thing for a reason. You're here for a reason. It's important that you don't get angry just because your situation is not what you prefer it to be. If you believe that way, then you'll continue to attract that reality, which is things are not the way you're supposed to be. So the universe supporting you in what you believe. And so if you believe that the environment is not what you want it because it's someone else's fault, then it's going to be a vicious cycle. So respectful of all things, people, in your environment, very important. Embrace the balance. That's number three. Embrace the balance. It's a simplified statement, but it's really the understanding of the all is the one is the all. Kind of back to that idea that we're all connected. All things are fundamentally connected on a level. But it's like karma. The idea of karma. So shut out the mainstream news. That's the biggest one. You got to avoid the negativity. It's just ridiculous. You don't want the negativity in your life. Focus on the positive. Look for and filter the exploitation. You got to identify the exploitation. That's like in ads, subliminal messages, Disney movies, especially deceptive financial tactics like Wall Street. Stay out of the stocks. This huge trap. And then health awareness. Love yourself. Self-worth. It's so important. You're valuable. You're here for a reason. So don't forget. Come back tomorrow, or come back Monday to Cryptid Matrix on Revealing Talk Radio. Max Maverick. See you Monday.